So again, I'd like to welcome you to today's MSDN webcast. This is Design Reports for SQL Server Reporting Services using the Microsoft Office programs. It's my pleasure to introduce today's presenter. We have Chris Baldwin here with us, and Chris is the Program Manager with the SQL Server Reporting Services team at Microsoft. So, Chris, take it away.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today for this webcast. The title of this is Design Reports for SQL Server Reporting Services using Microsoft Office Programs. As was mentioned, my name is Chris Baldwin. I'm a Program Manager with the SQL Server Reporting Services team. I primarily work on the rendering side of the product, making sure that the reports get rendered out to the proper formats in ways that look good and predictable, and also with the Office integration kind of aspect of it as well. So, what we will cover today is kind of a general overview of the Microsoft Business Intelligence goal, overall kind of strategy. We'll take a quick look at the current design tools that you can use for reporting services, ones that come out of the box, such as Report Designer and Report Builder. And then we'll look at using Microsoft Office Excel and Microsoft Office Word as report design tools, using this third-party tool that I'll show you today called SoftArtisan's Office Writer. And we'll also go through a number of the different rendering options, such as what's available today with reporting services and how you can achieve full Excel and Word rendering with Office Writer. The prerequisites for this session are a basic familiarity with Excel and Word. The demos and everything that I'll be showing today are going to be in Excel and Word 2007. So if you have a basic familiarity with those tools, that should be fine. Also a basic understanding of SQL Server 2005 reporting services. The Microsoft Business Intelligence vision and strategy overall is to improve organizations by providing business insight to all employees, leading to better, faster, and more relevant decisions. As you can see at the bottom here, one of the three key tenets of this overall goal is the widespread delivery of intelligence through Microsoft Office products. It's that particular point there that is really what I'm working on as far as reporting services goes. The tools that I'll show you today will show you how you can use reporting services to design reports and deliver reports through Microsoft Office that preserve all the fidelity and all the features of those Office documents. So there are a number of different ways you can design reports in SQL Server reporting services today. If you're familiar with reporting services at all, you're probably familiar with the tools that are provided by reporting services out of the box. For example, the most popular one, I think, is the Microsoft Visual Studio.net Business Intelligence Development Studio, which is intended for report developers. It's a plug-in to Visual Studio, and it lets you design queries and lay out your reports and generate and deploy RDLs directly from Visual Studio. Another option that's available is Report Builder, which is an end-user ad hoc report design tool. Report Builder is different from the Report Designer in Visual Studio in that it uses the semantic data layer. So you use this special kind of semantic abstraction to your data, which allows users to easily navigate their relational data and build reports off of that. And the third tool, which I'll be going into a lot more detail about today, is SoftArtisan's Office Writer. Office Writer are plugins to Excel and Word that allow business users to design reports using Excel and Word as a design tool. So the first thing I'll show today is a very quick demo of, I'll just whip up a very quick report using VisualStudio.net and the Business Intelligence Development Studio. If you can't see my screen, I suggest possibly push F5 and enter full screen mode. Usually that helps adjust the size of your screen so that you might be able to see my screen without scrolling. So in order to develop a brand new report, I'll go to Add, and I'll go to New Item, and I'll choose Report. I'll give my report a name, territorysales.rdl. When I do that, I'm presented with a query pane here. Now this is where what I use to design my data sets for my report. I'll give my data set a name, territory sales, and I will connect to my local SQL server, which is running the AdventureWorks sample database. Test the connection, and it succeeded. Excellent. So now that I have the graphical query designer here, I can begin to add tables to my query. So for this particular report, this report will be a sum of all the sales across all of our different sales territories. So in order to get that information, I'll add the sales territory table, and I'll add the sales order header table. And you can see that the query designer recognizes that these two tables are referred to each other by primary and foreign keys. So we want the name, territory name, and also the total due from the sales order header. And we're going to add them group by here. So we'll sum up the total due and we'll group by the name. We'll execute this query and see that it works, and you'll see that it's exactly what we want. It's a sum of all the sales for all of the different sales territories here. So that's great. I'll just change the column name here. When I'm done designing my data set, I can click over to the Layout tab, and I have this blank design surface on which I can begin designing my report. So I'll begin by adding a simple table to this report by dragging it directly off the toolbar here. I'll remove this column because I don't need it, and I'll drag these values into the report just like this. So what we have here is a simple table that will just list all of the territories and all the sales. I'll format this column here as currency because I know these are going to be currency values. And I'll do the same here for this sum row here. Set it to currency. All right, so let's preview this very quickly. And this looks like I expected. Now let's add a chart to this report. Again, I'll go back to the toolbox and I'll drag a pie chart onto this report. First, I'll change the chart type to pie, simple pie. And now I can drag the data fields that I want for this chart directly onto the chart body surface here. So the data fields are going to be the total, and the category fields are going to be name. When I preview this chart, we get a pie chart here that represents pretty much that shows the relative percentages of all of our various sales territories. So I can deploy this report directly to Reporting Services Server by using this menu here. I'll click on Deploy, and I'll check in Report Manager and verify that the report has been deployed, and it has. So when I view this report here, I get exactly the same thing that I looked at here. And we can export this to all the various formats, so I'll demonstrate Excel. Now, the Excel renderer that comes with reporting services does a really good job of making the report look exactly like it did when you designed it in Visual Studio. If you render the reports to HTML or to PDF or to Excel and so forth, you'll notice that they all do a pretty good job of looking pretty much exactly the same as far as layout goes. What you kind of sacrifice in that regard is some more of the advanced Excel features. So for example, you'll notice here that the chart is actually not a real chart. It is a static image. So it looks a lot like it does in all the different formats, but you kind of sacrifice some of the Excel features like charts and formulas. This sum here is not an actual sum. If I change these values up here, these values here have no connection to the chart and no connection to the formula down here. So this is a current limitation of reporting services, and it's something you can circumvent using the Office Writer tool, which I'll begin to show you in just a second. I'll go back to the slides here. And we'll talk quickly about rich reporting in Office. We've heard from many people that customers want rich data-driven delivery of reports in Microsoft Office document formats. So really, the key to that is what I just showed you about the Excel output not supporting real Excel charts and not supporting real formulas is something that people really are kind of anxious about. They really want to be able to export their reports into the Office formats and be able to take advantage of all of the rich features of those formats. So that means real charts, real formulas, pivot tables in Excel, and also Microsoft Word format. This is something that you can't do today with reporting services out of the box. Also, information workers want to use Microsoft Excel and Word as managed report authoring tools. Many people, many information workers are extremely familiar and comfortable with Microsoft Office, and they want to kind of leverage their existing knowledge of Excel and Word in designing reports for reporting services.
And we're back again with Chris, so hopefully our audio issues are back in control. So Chris, I'm going to give you back the floor again.
Sure, thank you. Sorry about that. Hopefully we've got this audio popping taken care of. Let us know if that continues to be a problem. So where were we here? So we were talking about the kind of very common customer asks surround reporting in Office. In order to achieve these two goals with reporting services, there's a company called Soft Artisans that has been developing a product that lets you really take advantage of Microsoft Office through reporting services. So who is Soft Artisans? Soft Artisans is a Microsoft certified partner based just outside of Boston. They're a leading partner for server-based Office document generation and file transfer technologies. Soft Artisans has over 20,000 customers in 700 countries, and their two main product lines include Office Writer, which I'll talk about today, and FileUp, which is for enterprise file transfer. So what is Office Writer? Office Writer is a managed library that creates, modifies, and reads Excel and Word documents on a server. It's designed for server-based use because it has no dependency on Microsoft Office on the server. Office Writer began as just a library that web developers used to build Excel and Word reporting into their web applications. That was very popular with customers because it supports Office 97 and later, and it supports the Excel and the Word binary format. So because Office Writer supports the binary format, there's no need to have any type of special viewing software on any of the machines where the reports are going to be viewed. And also because it supports the binary, you have very good back support from Office 97 and up. Office Writer was able to be used in two different ways. First of all, there was a full API, which was basically a full Word and Excel object model that let you work with documents using just code. There was also a template-based layout kind of mode, where users can lay out their entire documents and their reports in Office using Excel and Word, and then hand those off to a developer, which could then merge those reports with data with as little as 5 lines of code. It was this template-based layout approach that Soft Artisans took and integrated with reporting services. The key advantages of using this particular feature with reporting services is that you are able to design reports in Office and deliver reports in Office, which are fully supported by the reporting services report server on the back end. Reports can now be designed by end users. So business users that are very familiar with Microsoft Excel and Word can now design reports without having to open up Visual Studio. Office Writer also brings full Word output to reporting services, something that is not available today. And as I mentioned before, VisualStudio.net is not required. So the authoring experience with Office Writer is kind of shown in this little screenshot here. You'll see up in the toolbar here that there is a special add-in, and you'll see buttons up at the top there, Open Report, Add Query, and so forth. This is your Word and Excel add-in that are used to author the reports for reporting services. When you design your report with Office Writer, really all you're using is standard Office formatting and dialogue. So if you know how to format an Excel cell in currency, and if you know how to select a paragraph and make that bold or italic in Word, that's all you need to learn how to do in order to use this tool for reporting services. There's no need to learn any new techniques or new tools when using the toolbar because all of the formatting and all of the report design is done all through Office. When you deliver reports through Office Writer, it delivers the full binary and Excel Word export, and you get full fidelity Excel and Word documents. Because your design tool is the tool to which you'll eventually be delivering this report, anything you put into your report in Excel or Word will be preserved when you deliver the report at the end. So that means if you're designing your report in Excel or in Word and you put the VBA code in or pivot tables or anything like that, that will be absolutely 100% preserved when the report is generated. So I'll get right into doing a demo of this. So I'll show you very quickly how to design a report using Office Writer and Microsoft Office Excel 2007. So the report design experience for Office Writer begins in Excel or Word. So I'll open up Excel 97 and I will design the same report that I just designed in Visual Studio using Excel. So if you look here, this is the Office Writer add-in, and these buttons here are what you use to interface with the report server and to design your reports. So I'll begin by adding a query. We'll call this query Territory Sales. And I'll add a new database connection, and I'll select the AdventureWorks database, which is hosted on my local SQL server. Then what you see here is a Microsoft query tool, also known as MS Query. If you've ever done any kind of database kind of querying or anything like, or mail merge through Word or Excel, you're probably very familiar with this tool. So I'll just go ahead and add the same tables that I had before. And we will take the name, and we'll take the total. And we'll make a sum of the total, and we'll also sort it. So we get the highest performing region at the top. So this is our query, same one as before. When I'm done doing this, I can select Return the Office Writer Designer. So now we're back and we have a blank Excel surface, and we have the data set that we've just defined here in this drop down here. And these are the fields that we defined in our data set here. From now on, anything about designing a report takes place using pretty much standard Excel dialogues. To add the data fields that we've selected in our query into the report, we'll drop this down here, and we'll drop territory sales name and sum of total due right in these cells here. Now these strings here that you see with the percent equals, these are what in Office Writer terminology is called data markers. When we look at this template on the server, we will look for these, the Office Writer rendering extensions looks for this percent equals, and that's how it knows where to put data into the report. So these are merely place markers for data that Office Writer understands. In order to add a heading to this table, I'll just type name, total due here, and we can do some standard Excel formatting. We'll make this bold, and we'll make this currency using standard Excel dialogues. Now, with Office Writer, unlike the Excel export with reporting services out of the box, you can use real Excel formulas in your reports. So I'll add a total sum column value here at the end of this column, which will sum up all these values here. To do that, I'll just type the Excel formula here, sum, and I'll point it to D3, D3. Now that it might look a little funny that this range here points to just one cell, but when this workbook is populated on the server by Office Writer, this formula range will expand to fit all of the number of rows that are imported. And we'll see that at the end when we view the report. And we can also add a real Excel chart. So let's add a pie chart here. Resize it a little bit, and I'll put it right there. Now we have to connect our chart to our source data. We'll add a series value here. So the series values are going to be sheet 1, D3 to D3. Now this is just like the formula that I put in there. It just points to one cell now, but when the data gets imported, this formula will expand. And the series name will be total due. The category labels will be here, C3 to C3. We'll verify this, D3 to D3. This is what happened here. Let me start over. So the series values again will be this here. Series name will be this. And the category values will be here. And we'll click OK. So when we're done designing the report, we can go back to the add-in toolbar here, and we can publish the report directly to the report server. First, we'll save a copy of this, so we have it in case we need it, and then we hit publish. We'll call it territorysales.rdl. And when we click publish, we see a list of all of the different folders and reports on the report server. So here's where we can publish directly to the report server from Excel. So I'll decide to save this in this folder called Webcast, and we'll call it Territory Sales. The one already exists. Yes, we will replace it. So now this report has been published to Excel. Now once it's been published, we can preview it as well. So when we click the View button, it will retrieve it from the server, and we can preview exactly what it looks like. And here's what the report looks like. And you can see that the formula has been expanded from D3, D3 to D3 to D12. So that accounts for all of the levels of detail that have been brought back, and also the chart values have also expanded as well. So this report now is fully published on the report server. And this is the report that we just published. So now that it's published, you could use this report. You can take advantage of all the different features of the report server, such as security and subscriptions and delivery options, because it's just a regular report through reporting services. So we've started from nothing, and we've designed a report for reporting services that takes advantage of real Excel features, real Excel charts, and real Excel formulas without ever having left Excel. this is what Office Writer lets you do. And you can see that these are real Excel features because I can change these values here. And when I do, the formula updates and the chart updates. So Office Writer is probably a good fit for you if you have a strong need to use real Excel, lots of the more advanced Excel and Word features in reporting services. Another thing you can do with Office Writer is you can add pivot tables to your existing reports. So, for example, we have this AdventureWorks report here, which is one of the demo reports that comes with reporting services out of the box, and it displays data in this matrix here. When I export this to Office Writer, I've designed this report with Office Writer. I've added a template to this report that has a pivot table as well. So when I save this, and when I open it in Excel 2007, and I refresh the data in this pivot table, you'll see that this is a report generated from reporting services that has a full Excel 2007 pivot table in it. So the way this works is that Office Writer just pretty much dumped the data from the query, from the data set, into this sheet here. The pivot table then is responsible for aggregating and summing up all the various values in that data table and presents it in this table here. This is pretty useful because there's been lots of good improvements to pivot tables in Excel 2007 that you might want to take advantage of. Very powerful tool for data analysis. I'll go back to my slides now. So how does this work exactly? Where does Office Writer fit in this whole thing? There's two basic components to Office Writer if you want to design reports in Excel and Word and deliver reports using Excel and Word. So first of all, the Excel and Word designer add-ins need to be deployed on the client machines where the reports will be designed. So in order to do this, it's a very light install. It's a simple add-in for Excel and Word that you install on the client machine where the reports are going to be designed. On the report server, where the reports are going to be generated, you need to install and register Office Writer rendering extensions. These are custom rendering extensions that need to get installed only once in your report server. Now, these are the rendering extensions that are used when you use to generate Excel reports from reports that you've designed using Excel and Word with Office Writer. And there's nothing special required to view an Office Writer report because since Office Writer generates real Excel and Word binary from the server, all you need is something that views Excel or Word documents, such as Excel or Word or the Excel viewer or any other software that understands that. So how does Office Writer work exactly? Office Writer works by storing the binary template in the RDL file. So this is slightly different from the standard way that reporting services works in a very important way. Typically, when you design a report in Report Designer with Visual Studio, what you get is you get an RDL layout of that report. So basically, an XML document that describes everything about how the report should look, the layout, and the data sets, and so forth. Office Writer is different in that the layout of the report is defined by a binary template, not through the XML. So you can see in the slide here what I'm pointing to. That's how the binary template gets stored. When you click on Save and you generate an RDL file from the Office Writer toolbar, you're actually serializing that Excel or Word binary template into a base 64 string, stuffing it into that RDL file, and then deploying it onto the report server. When you use the Office Writer rendering extensions to render those reports, the rendering extensions will extract that binary template, and the Office Writer library on the server, since it understands how to read and manipulate the Excel and Word binary, can merge that document with data and then deliver it to the client. This is what about Office Writer technology that enables you to take advantage of the full capabilities of Excel and Word. Now, what's interesting about this particular approach is that you can have two or more completely separate design paths within one RDL file. So you can design a report in Report Designer, and you can have an RDL-based layout, and then you can add a template to that report as well. So you can render to PDF or HTML or any of the other standard RDL layout renderers, or you can render with the Office Writer renderer, in which case you'll get the template-based layout. So for the next demo, I'll show an example of designing a report with Word 2007. So I'll minimize this, and I'll open up Word 2007. There we go. And under add-ins here, you'll see that it basically looks pretty much the same as it did for Excel. So what I'll do here is, when you click Open Report, you can open up reports. You can open up existing RDL files. If you open up an RDL file that has been designed in Visual Studio, and you open it up with Office Writer, what you'll get is the data sets that were defined in that RDL file imported into the toolbar here, and then you'll be presented with a blank Word surface for designing your report. So I'll show you that right now. So I'll open up this report directly from the server. I'll open up this report called Product Line Sales. And this Product Line Sales report shows, there's a couple different queries here, and it shows the top employees and the top customers. So I will add these values into Word tables in the report here. So this particular table will be the top customers table. So in order to drop the data fields in here, I'll drop store name, and I'll drop sale amount. And I'll set the query range here. So what we're doing here is we're saying that for every row in this data set, we want a new Word table row, and that's defined by these Word bookmarks here. You can define these Word bookmarks around pretty much any type of Word element that you want in your document. So you can put these bookmarks around bulleted lists or entire paragraphs or pages, but I think the most common thing that people do is put them in Word tables, like on Word table rows like this. What this will do is this will repeat the Word table row once for every row of detail in this data set. I'll add another table here, and this will be the top employees. And I'll drop the values in here just like this. And I'll also set the query range. So what I've done basically for this report is I have taken an existing report that was designed in Visual Studio that has a data set and an RDL-based layout, and I've added a Word template to it. So now when I publish this report, first I'll save it. And when I publish it to the server, put it back in this folder here, Webcast. Successful. And we'll view it. So this is what the report looks like when generated through Word. So what I've done here is I have taken an existing report. This is what the product line sales report looks like when designed through Visual Studio. It looks like this. I've taken and I've added a Word template to it. So when I export it with the Word designed by Office Writer rendering extension, I'll see exactly what I saw here. So this report admittedly doesn't really look like much, but it shows exactly how you can use Word to design reports for reporting services, and how you can add Word templates to existing RDL reports. So I'll close this real quick. And I'll show another example. Now, Word support is not provided with reporting services out of the box today. And so one of the more popular kind of scenarios for Word support is for doing purchase orders and kind of documents just like this. With Office Writer, it enables lots of different Word scenarios that were otherwise not available. So for example, purchase orders, even mailing labels, and form letters as well. Here's an example. So this report, you'll notice when I open this up from the report server, instead of getting a blank Word design surface, I actually got some stuff here in my design surface here. That's because this report was designed. I already began designing this report with the Office Writer Designer. So there's already a Word template stored in that RDL file. When the Office Writer Designer opens up an existing RDL file that has a template in it, it will open that up into the Word surface, and you can resume editing exactly where you were before. So in order to add some new fields to this report, I can go back to the add-in here, and I'll select the order header query, and I'll drop the values in here. Just like this. I'll add city, state, and postal code. Another thing I'll do is, these are regular Word merge fields, which means any kind of Word merge field formatting codes that you might be familiar with, you can apply it to these values here. So for example, say I know this is going to be a quantity value, and I know from using these merge fields, doing word mail merges in the past, that a word formatting code for currency looks like this. So I can add this code here and toggle that off. And now when I export this report and I view it, it's going to have that merge field is going to apply currency formatting to it. So I'll publish this back to the server, place the one that's there, and then we'll view it. And here's what it looks like. And you can see that the formatting codes that I've applied have taken to this field here, and here are the values that I've added up at the top here. And once again, we can verify this is published to reporting services here. So when I export this through the Word Office Writer rendering extension, I get the exact same report. Because it's deployed to reporting services server as a regular RDL file, you can deliver it just as you would any other report. So what I've just shown you is a couple examples of the Office Writer with reporting services integration. So basically what it is you design your reports using Excel and Word, and then you save your binary template into the RDL file, which gets merged with data on the server through reporting services. Office Writer is also a powerful standalone reporting product because of the API that I mentioned to you earlier. So basically it's a full object model based around Excel and Word that you can use to modify reports in Excel and Word format. Like the reporting services integration aspect of it, it's also built for server usage, licensed per server CPU, and does not require Office on the server. I'll show you a way you can use that now. So this particular demo will show how you can post-process reporting services reports using the Office Writer API. So basically what this demo will show is we'll use the reporting services SOAP API through Visual Studio to open up a report. We'll open up that report with Office Writer, and then we'll do some post-processing on that Excel document and do some changes to it, and then we'll deliver it to the client. So here we are. So I'm going to close this project here. I'm going to open this project called RS Post Process. So what we see here, if you're familiar with this code, if you've ever done any kind of report rendering through the reporting services SOAP API endpoints, this probably looks very familiar to you. All this does here is it takes a path to a report and renders the results to a byte array and then returns it as a stream. So we're going to take the report that we looked at earlier, that territory sales report that we designed in Excel, and we're going to programmatically retrieve that report from the report server, open it up with the Office Writer API, and we're going to do some stuff to that book, and then we're going to deliver it to the client. So, for example, here's a few things we can do. So we can use this object model here to change the names of worksheet tabs. So, for example, I've got this Excel workbook back. I've opened it up, and now I can get access to each of the individual worksheets in the workbook, and I'll give this worksheet tab a name. I'll call it my new tab name, just as an example. We can also change the colors of the tabs. And we'll make it blue, just as an example. So then when we deliver this report to the user, it'll have this worksheet tab name and this worksheet tab color. And there's a number of other things you can do as well. I mean, you have access to pretty much all of the structure of the workbook here, right down to the individual cell. I'm just showing you a few examples here just to give you an idea about how this can be used. So when I build this and I run it, I just have a simple button here. So when I click this button, that code to render the report through reporting services will be run, and then we will get that report and open it up with Office Writer, make some changes to the worksheet tab, and then we'll look at the report. Oops. What have I done here? Let me take a look back here real quick and make sure that report is there, the one that I actually pointed to. So going back to my report server, I'll go to Webcast, and I'll make sure this territory sales report works here with Office Writer. Okay, so that's there. So we're looking for this territory sales, and we're rendering it to the Excel template. I'll just try this one more time. Well, unfortunately, this appears to not be working. If this was working, what you would see was that the worksheet tab would have this name, and this would be the color. This is actually a very powerful technique for processing these for post-processing these documents, for adding things above and beyond what you can do with just the designer itself. I do apologize for this technical difficulty. So in summary, using Office Writer with reporting services, your design tool is Excel or Word. What this allows you to do is to leverage your existing investment in Excel or document files. So if you have existing reports that are based in Excel or Word, you can really easily use Office Writer to retrofit those documents in order to make them into reporting services reports. This is true WYSIWYG editing because the design tool is the tool to which you will eventually be delivering the reports. Because many users are very familiar already with Excel and Word, there's no need to learn a new design tool. As I've shown, much of the report formatting and design can really be done using standard Word and Excel techniques that many people are very familiar with. Because we support all of the features of Excel and Word, you can add things to your report such as auto format, pivot tables, and real charts. Office really is your end user interface for reporting services when you compare it with Office Writer. We preserve 100% of all Word and Excel file features. And a very important point is that we also provide full Word export, which you don't have right out of the box with reporting services. So I hope if you have any questions, you'll let me know. The next step is to try it out. You can get an evaluation of the software directly from Soft Artisans. And here's the phone number and email address and URL that you can go to in order to get a copy of the software and begin playing with it. For additional resources, you can visit the Soft Artisans Office Writer website here at this URL. Also, SQL Server Reporting Services site on Microsoft.com is a good resource for any kind of questions you may have. And there's also a list of reporting services blogs that are maintained by a number of us here on the reporting services product team that could be very useful in answering some of your questions. So if you have any questions, please feel free to submit them using the Ask button through the question manager there. And also don't forget to fill out the survey.
So Chris, while you start taking a look at those questions that are coming in, I'm just going to go through a couple of things with everyone, let them know. And you can pull up that question queue and start taking a look at those, and then we'll get to those questions in just a moment. So like Chris mentioned, if you have any questions for him, go ahead and submit them now and hit that Ask button in the lower right-hand corner of your interface.
Okay.
I do like to point out to all of our attendees that we do record all of our webcasts. So if you want to see any of our previously recorded webcasts, as well as anything that's coming up, everything is posted right there at Microsoft.com/webcast. We also love to hear from you, so if you have content ideas or anything that you'd like to see us do differently on these webcasts, let us know. There's yet another link there, and I'll just remind you that you can print a PDF of the slides. Just go to that File menu in your upper navigation bar. Know that that last slide in particular had some really great links on it, so nice to have that information. And today's webcast was presented using the Microsoft Office Live Meeting technology, so you can get a free 14-day trial. Just go to Microsoft.com/present-live. And you should all be seeing that survey now in your slide area. Just like to point that out, if you hit that registered online area, that'll take you right into the survey. And we do like to get your feedback, so take a moment to fill that out before you log out. We appreciate that. And Chris, I'm going to hand it back to you and let you wrap up with a couple of these questions that we have in the queue here.
Okay, sure. Do you want me to just speak to some of these questions, or do you want me to type my answers here?
No, if you just want to speak to them, that would be great.
Okay. A couple of questions here that I see are, is Office 2007 required to create reports? Will the Office Writer Designer also work with 2003? The answer is yes. Even though all the demos that I've showed today have been using Office 2007, the Office Writer Designer will also work in 2003. So I think a couple people had that question there. Let me see what else I have here. Another question here is, does the end user need to have the same version of Office installed to view these reports? The answer is no. Because Office Writer generates the regular Office, Excel, and Word binary format, you don't need to. All you need to have is Office 97 or above in order to view those reports. And let's see here. Another question from Corey is, if an RDL file contains several templates, how does the user choose which one to render through Report Manager? So an Office Writer report can have up to 3 different design paths within one RDL file. The first one being the XML RDL defined layout that you probably have designed using Report Designer through Visual Studio. The other one is an Excel template added with the Office Writer for Excel add-in, and the third one is a Word template added with the Office Writer Designer for Word. Depending on which rendering extension you choose, that's how the report server decides which template to go for. So for example, if you select any of the standard reporting services renderers that work on RDL-based layout, for example, PDF, standard Excel, HTML, or image, all of those rendering extensions do not understand the Office Writer binary template kind of concept. They only look at the XML defined through the RDL layout. So those will look at the RDL layout and create a report from that. If you have a report that has an Excel Office Writer template saved in it and you render it using the Office Writer for Excel rendering extension, that rendering extension will look for the Office Writer Excel template, and likewise for Word. So that's how you manage various different templates inside your RDL file. I hope I answered that question okay. Another question, can we get a quick demo of how to do this with earlier versions of Excel or Word? Yeah, as I mentioned, the add-ins will work on earlier versions. There is really no difference in process. The only things that might be a little bit different are just a few differences in the way that you define the chart data ranges for Excel charts. It differs slightly between Excel 2003 and Excel 2007. Other than that, all of the same concepts really apply. Another question is, if I want to allow my users to edit reports in Excel and Word, I would need to add templates in Word and Excel. So yes, if you want to, the thing to remember here is that if you design a report using the Office Writer Designer for Excel, in order to get that full Excel output, that report needs to be rendered with the Office Writer for Excel rendering extension on the server. Likewise, if you design a report using Office Writer for Word Designer, that report needs to be rendered using the Office Writer for Word rendering extension on the server. What you cannot do is create an Excel report using the Office Writer for Excel Designer, and then render it to, say, PDF. That won't work because of the basic difference in the way that standard RDL renderers work and the way that these Office Writer template-based renderers work. Hopefully I answered that question okay. A question from Cliff is, how would an end user design a report without using the add query functionality, or is this a requirement? This is not a requirement. What you can do is, because like I showed you, when you open up an existing report with the Office Writer toolbar, you get the data sets that were defined in that RDL file automatically imported. So what you can do is the DBA or your IT guy can create an RDL file with these pre-canned queries within it. So you give the RDL file to the business user who's going to be using Word or Excel to design the report, and these RDL files already have the data sets. So when the user opens up the existing report using the Office Writer toolbar, they get the existing queries, they get those drop-downs of the queries and the data fields already populated for them. They don't need to go and use the Add Query button themselves. So that's actually a pretty good way to separate the report designer from the database work.
Did we get them all?
There's a couple left here. Let's see. Bill asked a question, if several people have the ability to create reports, how do you manage the assignment of report names and the report directory structure so everyone can work together without getting confused between the different variations of similar reports? I'm not sure I exactly understand the question there. This would be no different using Office Writer than it would be for any other design tool for reporting services. You can always restrict access to certain folders based on role-based security, which is a feature of the report server, and even go further steps by restricting access to the data on the SQL Server level as well. So yeah, Bill, if you want to kind of refine that question, I'd be happy to answer it. Thanks. JB asks, as a developer, can I buy Office Writer to develop reports on my local development machine and then deploy these customers' report server without the customer having to have Office Writer? The customer would need to have Office Writer installed on their report server in order to render these reports. So yes, you would need to, the Office Writer rendering extensions need to be installed on whatever machine is going to be rendering the reports. Can we render reports in RTF through Office Writer? No, Office Writer supports native Word binary only, not RTF. Is there any document that compares SSRS 2005 with Cognos? That I don't know off the top of my head. I would suggest sending me an email. My email is chrisbal, CHRISBAL, @microsoft.com. If you have any further questions like this, and if you have any specific questions about reporting services versus Cognos, I'll be glad to try to track something down for you. Does it support OLAP/analysis services? If you have an OLAP query already defined in the RDL file, you can drop those fields into your report when using Office Writer Designer. The Office Writer Query Designer, which is actually just the MS Query tool, does not support creating OLAP analysis services queries. And I got a question again. What is my email? My email is chrisbal, CHRISBAL, or more simply, chris.baldwin @microsoft.com. That's, again, chris.baldwin @microsoft.com. And if you have any follow-up questions to Office Writer, I'll be glad to answer them for you.
And I think we got all the questions, right?
I think that's it, yes.
Excellent. So I'm going to remind everybody that your feedback is very valuable. So if you just take a moment to fill out that survey before you log out, we appreciate that. And with that, I'm just going to extend a special thanks to Chris for today's presentation. So that concludes today's MSDN Live meeting. I'd like to thank you all for joining us.